This is Believe in Buckeyes. I'm Bryant Browning with All-American quarterback Chimdi Chekwa. This is Believe in Buckeyes brought to you by FanDuel. Chim, we got to get out on the field today. It was about 90 degrees early. That's hot in Ohio. Definitely in August. But we got to check out our guys, man, as they kicked off week 2 of camp. How are you doing? How are things? Just seeing the guys get you fired up a little bit, man. What's going on?
Yeah, it did, man. It's always good to get your eyes on them, right? You know, all this speculation on what they can do. You kind of know the guys, but it's good to just see them in action. And it's also good to see some of the other former players, the older guys. You know, obviously the guys we played with, but some of the older guys getting to reconnect with some of those guys. So that was good. You know, I brought my little son out, a little cousin, who's just getting into football in high school here, man. So I had to get him, fully submerged in all of this Ohio State stuff. He's coming out of Houston. So, yeah, it was good, man. I had a good time.
That's good, man. And it's funny, I got to talk to Samuel while at practice, and you know how teenagers are, especially boys. You know, they cool, and nothing excites them. They just kind of, it's fine. You know, he seemed a little bit excited, like they kind of see, see the practice kind of going on and a little bit fired up about it, man. So that definitely was good to see. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, he was excited. I had to tell him no recording. Like, you can't record out here, man.
You might give us something. No, he might be working for the home state team, man. He giving out some week 1 stuff. No, but man, yeah, but let's get into it, man. Obviously, everyone wants to know about the quarterback position. You know, whenever there's not a name starter in this competition, that's what everyone is talking about, and we got to see both these guys with our eyes today, and Julian Sayin and Lincoln Cleanhouse, man. But what's your thoughts on their performance? Did anyone get the nod from you today as the number 1 guy? Or what's your thoughts of just basically what you saw and what they was able to do in that, 2.5 hours he had eyes on them?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I feel like back when we played, whenever they had like a media day or a certain day where everybody came in and watched, they start airing the ball out on offense. Like that'd be the day where, as a corner, I lace my cleats up super tight and get ready to run. And it seemed like this was the day. Today they were throwing the ball. And I don't know if that's how it is every time. I got to go to more practices to see. But I thought both quarterbacks flashed. I thought both quarterbacks made some mistakes. It feels a lot like the recent competitions, in that there's not a guy who seems like they're just head and shoulders above the other guy. But to me, unlike recent competitions, when we go back to the McCord and Devin Brown, it felt like both guys needed a lot of improvement to be ready to go week 1. I think I like both of these quarterbacks. I actually think both of them, just from a practice standpoint, obviously the game is different. I thought both of them look like they can go out there and lead the team in the way that they do it. But one thing I will say from both quarterbacks is they both have the capability to get the ball to number 4. They both have the capability of getting that ball up, throwing those back shoulder fades, throwing those deep balls, and that's what you like to see. I think from Lincoln, a little bit of different style of play, a little bit more athleticism is good to see. And it seemed like that was an important aspect last year, even though it wasn't used a ton. Being able to get the quarterback out there running was a key part of the offense. This year, I think we have the weapons where at every position that we don't necessarily need it. Like we can win with the pass, but it's going to be interesting on how Ryan Day is evaluating, because the evaluation is one, who wins the competition. But you got to imagine it's also like, how do we want to attack offenses? How do we want to, week in, week out, take advantage of defenses that we play against? So I don't know. I'm interested. What's your perspective on that QB competition?
Yeah, I think I think how you ended is how I want to kind of go at it. It's like almost to the effect is, how do we plan on playing? I feel like, kind of watching things that, I kind of still would stand on the standpoint that I feel like that is Julian Sayin's job to lose, and Lincoln will be that, that number 2 role. But it kind of, once again, goes about the game plan. And obviously, we know Hartline's his first-year offensive coordinator, but we will understand that most likely Coach Day will have a big stamp on how this offense kind of goes out and attack teams. But to me, it's more like, okay, if you have a If you plan on attacking with more of a short game, maybe some like RPO type of situations where you're literally at the snap reading how people are playing, linebackers are playing, and making a decision or what you're gonna do with the football at the point. Maybe more saying it's your guy, and with that nice special quick release that he has, he able to get the ball into different spots, and we kind of let those talented guys go from there, and they can make short games turn into big games when you start talking about short passes to Brandon Ennis and obviously getting the ball to Jeremiah Smith and what things that Carnell Tate could do. But if you wanted to go away for that, you want to look, we need to kind of play behind our pass here. Play with, we want to run the ball first. We got 2-3 good running backs here. We want them to kind of get going in the game. But then as they get going in the game, we want to kind of take more shots down the field. Then I think that's more of a type of situation where you might want to play Lincoln a little bit more because obviously he adds to the game with his ability to be mobile and just add a little bit different, a bit to it when you start looking at read options and things of that nature. So to me, it kind of a lot about how we plan on attacking. Yeah. If you plan on winging it, short passes, mediocre passes, and kind of take deep shots every blue moon, Julian's your guy. Saying's your guy. If you want to run the ball, be really, confident, go out there with heavy formations and move guys around off the line of scrimmage and really kind of let that be the bread and butter. And then on top of that, take some shots. I think Lincoln's your guy. But, and obviously they have to make a decision. But obviously once the season kind of goes, things could definitely pivot if you kind of went one direction and you see like, hey, it's not working. What else can we do here? I think they have the ability to kind of do both with those talents, and whoever that we're leaning towards, that's who you start, and you kind of go from there.
Yeah, and based on you explaining that or breaking that down, it feels like saying probably the guy. It feels like, given the way I anticipate this offense attacking defenses is we're gonna start deep and come back to the run. And we may run early, but we know how we want to attack. We know that, we have talent at receiver all over the field. And it's special talent, man. This is like, if we get this ball up there and he's in a one-on-one matchup, there's not anything that they can really do, right? And that level of talent, I'm not just talking about Jeremiah Smith. I'm talking about Carnell Tate as well. And then you have Claire at the tight end position and other guys at the tight end position. I just think, what they've built around this offense from an aerial attack perspective, you're going to want the guy who is best. Both of them are capable, but the guy who is best at slinging the ball around and getting the ball to those receivers and being able to make things happen. And it feels like saying it's probably where they lean. I'm not sure in camp that Day's going to get what he needs to see somebody pull away. I honestly don't think it's going to happen. I think what's built into that is how, we want to attack. And I think they want to attack, not necessarily pass first, but knowing that a heavy dose of explosive plays and passes and getting guys who are dangerous in space in the pass game is how they're going to want to attack. And I think that's how they lead. And, I'd be interested in whether or not there's a package or something else for the other quarterback. I do think the most important thing is that both of them are prepared to play. Both of them are prepared to be starters because it's a long season and anything can happen. And you got two guys, and then the next guy you have is an incoming freshman. All right. So you need, first of all, you need all three of those guys to be ready, but you definitely need the two to be guys who carry themselves as starters and leaders of this football team.
Yeah, and speaking of which, out of our wide receiver unit, I can't speak today, man. We got FanDuel has Jeremiah Smith at a plus 1100, currently fourth in the Heisman voting, the number one player that's not a quarterback on that list, and what he brings to the table, and there's a different things from there. Looking at Jeremiah Smith today, is a lot of people have him as like the number one player in college football. I mean, did you see it? Is he still that guy going into year two, the number one cream of the crop when it comes to college ball?
Yeah, he's a number one player. I have my cousin who's, he's starting to learn how to play corner and all that stuff. And he was like, hey, he saw Jeremiah Smith catch a touchdown. He's like, hey, what do you do about that? Like, how do you stop that play? Like, what's the technique? What do you do? And I say, and you go up and play the ball, and then you pray for the best. Like there's no, like you're limited in your ability to stop that for real. And he's just a handful. Like it's gonna be. It requires you to game plan to stop him, regardless of who else is on the field, and that's what's scary for this Ohio State offense. But I think it's hard for him to win the Heisman because Ohio State. It's hard for a non-quarterback at Ohio State to win the Heisman. It's hard for the quarterback because they lose points because there's so many talented receivers.
Guys, yeah.
But it's really hard for one receiver to win because there's so much talent around him. Now he comes in with the hype. So if you get a heavy dose of Jeremiah Smith every single game, there's a certain number that can get him there, given that none of the other quarterbacks around the nation stand out. Right? Because Arch Manning is coming in with the same level of hype, even though he has not produced at the same level as Jeremiah Smith. So it's going to be tough. I'm interested to see how that plays out for the Heisman.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, so let's talk about the defense side of the ball. Obviously, we know quarterbacks going to compete. We know whoever could throw the ball to number 4 is going to have a pretty good season. That's just given. But on the defense side of the ball, obviously we got some competition when we're looking at the safeties. We got some question marks when you start looking at like the interior of our defensive line. What was your thoughts on the defense overall today and their performance? And is there anything that kind of stand out, or anybody you want to give a shout out to, or any position group that you think stood tall today in this practice?
Yeah, I think defensively, first of all, I think across the board, this team has the potential to win a national championship. I think from a talent standpoint, they have a potential to win a national championship. I think what's different about this team than last year's is the talent from a depth standpoint. I think that's where last year I would give them the edge, is that they're too deep, so talented in so many positions. I think defensively, at the linebacker position, at the cornerback position, you still have that level of depth and talent. Even some of these, some of the young guys at linebacker, they look like they might be good and ready to go. I think the defensive line, the interior, my concern was mostly the interior D-line. The interior D-line looks pretty good.
Yeah, they look too bad, right?
So I want to get your take on the D-line and the offensive line in general. But I think at safety is where, to me, if there's a concern for depth, it's the safety and the nickel type position, like, how they decide to mix guys in. I think they should lean on the corners because they have a lot of depth there where guys can move in. There was a lot of talk about, playing Malik Hartford and Jalen McClain at safety and getting Caleb Downs at the nickel position. I think that's an option as well. But I think you're limited in the amount of safeties that you play this year. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. I think guys like Devin Sanchez, I know he's a young player, but he looks apart, man. He looks apart. I think he has to be ready to go. So the defense looked great. To me, what it comes down to is the depth and how fast can some of these younger guys in the defensive backfield develop enough to be ready to go early in the season. You got a big game early. Anything can happen in the big game. But I want to get your perspective on the offense and defensive line because I really was focused. I mean, they were airing the ball out today. I was really focused on, whether or not those guys are playing the ball. I want to say one thing about that, though. Like, they were throwing the back shoulder fades, the deep balls, etc. And the corners did a great job of playing these guys, getting their head around Davison Igbinosun, Jermaine Matthews, getting the ball out of their hands, making plays. And I was talking to Ahmed Plummer. So if y'all don't know Ahmed Plummer, great corner at Ohio State, first round draft pick.
Yeah, first round draft pick. Yeah.
And we were talking. He said something that I used to always say, that sometimes when you go against great receivers all the time, you get to the game and you play receivers that aren't that good, it messes you up, bro. Like I really think the aggressiveness of a Jeremiah Smith that you go against all the time and you got to fight with him. He's hand fighting you. He's bumping you. You're bumping back. When you go against another guy, he doesn't come close to him. And sometimes I think our corners get a little over aggressive, right? They gotta understand that you're not going against Jeremiah Smith. You're not going against Cardinal Tate. right? So save that aggression and go pick the ball off. So I wanted to get that out, but from a line standpoint, because there's been a lot of talk about the line, man. Is the offensive line, who's going to be the left tackle, who's going to be the right tackle, what about the transfers, and then a lot of concern about the depth of the defensive line. I want to get your perspective, being at practice today. What did you see from that line on both sides?
Yeah, I mean, first I would just like to say that do we have the big names or let's say well-known names at Ohio State like we had the previous season? I would say not. But overall, looking at this practice in general, like there is no real weak link on this team. Like, there's a lot of big time players. Maybe we know them, maybe not. Maybe we'll get to learn them this season, but they are there, and expecting another great season for Ohio State. Even at the quarterback position, Coach Day had mentioned that this competition is more like Dwayne Haskins versus Joe Burrow compared to like Devin Brown and McCord, because once again we're talking about
hold on, that's big, that's big time right
there. Big time. That's not something. It's big time.
But Joe Burrow, who might be the best quarterback in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
Dwayne Haskins, first round draft pick, set some records at Ohio State. Like, those are big time quarterbacks. I know when they had the competition, they weren't at that level yet. But.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But but to say, obviously, and he mentioned like everything's not apple to apples. But once again, we're not talking about who do we have to play. We're talking about who do we want to play out of these two, because it just felt like they have two good options. And then that kind of goes right to the offensive line. The offensive line, I feel like this might have been, and it's almost crazy to say, but obviously with my own two eyes, this is the most depth that I've seen an Ohio State team have on the offensive line. And I'm just, like I said, in my lifetime and what I could see, regarding watching going on and watching the practice, they have about 9 to 10 guys that I do not sneeze at if you had to play them in a game. Like, yeah, they'll be fine. Like, obviously stuff's going to happen. They're going to win every rep.
So I got to cut you off again. So
well, go ahead. What you got?
Hold on. For the last few years, there's been a lot of complaint about our ability to recruit and bring in talent on the offensive line from the transfer portal, bring in talent from a recruiting standpoint. So you telling me, all these times we struck out on the offensive line, you telling me we're 9 deep in terms of, all right, I'm going to take your word for it here.
Yeah, no, we're 9 deep. 9 deep. And obviously, so Coach Day spoke about it, so I don't feel bad speaking about it. I don't want to, once again, we're not trying to break news here on Believe in Buckeye, but we had Austin Sherfitt at left tackle today. We had Phil at right tackle, who's a transferred in from Cincinnati, Ohio, transferred in at Minnesota. That was the tackles at today. And then with Ethan, who we brought in from Rice, who for the most part, spring was at that left tackle position. He was more like at that swing tackle position and playing some guard today as well. And it's like, this is breaking news to me, right? To kind of go out there and see it. But I mean, it just worked. Like, you just got so many guys that, first off, this is football. So you always kind of got looked apart first. We got maybe 12 guys that looked apart, but some of those guys are young. But so when you start looking at the actual reps and what they could do on the field, you got about 9, 10 guys that could kind of go out there. And to be honest, obviously, like I say, things could happen in the game, and people could get, circle a guy and get peed off because one play went bad. But overall, these guys could play. And we got 9, 10 guys out there that I feel very comfortable with, that could go out there on any Saturday, make whatever blocks is needed, whatever style of offense we decide to run, and kind of go out there and get the job done. Obviously, with that line being anchored now by at Sherfield being at that left tackle position. So it's still some competition. Obviously, things can happen. Things can get moved and bounced around. But for week 2 of training camp, that offensive line just have a lot of big bodies, good bodies, and guys that look like they kind of have the right head on their shoulders to go out there and compete at a very high level.
So there's been some questions. I got a question on Twitter. Can Austin Servell play that left tackle position? Is it we got Ethan and he didn't work out, so now we got to put somebody there? Or is it, Austin is the guy, and let's find another spot for this other guy who also can play on the line? So what's your perspective?
I think Austin earned that position, right? I mean, like we seen him at other positions, right? We seen him at left guard. We seen him playing some right tackle. We seen him playing some right guard in a situation when he was kind of going back and forth with Tegra over there. He earned his spots. So when it comes to this left tackle position, it's not like something like, we just got to put somebody over there. Ethan wasn't getting a job done. Like, no, Austin earned. He played so well at right tackle. I was confused about, like, why would they say it's competition here? Like, this, you
Right.
just don't get much better than this.
Right.
And so now they take that and put it at left tackle. And that just kind of goes to show what type of player that we're dealing with here. Now, hopefully he could just anchor in at a position, because obviously, when it comes to the next level, you want to give him this best opportunity to do that.
Right.
And so getting more comfortable and understanding spots and points and timing and things like that helps the guy out. But if he could just kind of continue to anchor that, have a go out there a couple games, have a good game against Texas, kind of get a few games under his belt, there's no doubt in my mind that he could be one of the guys that we're proud of about him going on to the next level. And we're tracking to see how good that he does at the next level. And that's just due to his play that he's earned and not given when it comes to, once again, this unit. Because the same thing with the quarterback. It's like, it's good versus good. Like, Ethan could go out there and play left tackle. I watched him do it in the spring. He wasn't doing a horrible job, but I did always continue to say he got some things to work on. I was kind of used to echo that. And so now, you kind of seen him moving around a little bit, but that's just another guy. If anything happens, it's a long season, as we keep mentioning. He definitely plug in there, and we wouldn't miss a beat. It's just, once again, Sherfield maybe earned that more than others, and that's kind of why he gets that left tackle nod right now.
On the defensive line, who stood out to you on the defensive line? There's been a lot of, talk about where we need to improve, or where we may have some limited depth, but I'm curious on your perspective how the D-line performed.
Yeah, so the defensive line, like I said before, we was, if you just look at the roster, like, once again, we don't know these guys like we know, like, our previous defensive linemen. But I would like to say Tywone Malone. He's a defensive tackle. I believe this is his third year. No, this is his fourth year in the program. He's going to I think it's red. Hey, no, stuff get iffy. Redshirt senior, redshirt junior type of year. But he definitely stood out today in practice. It's just being disruptive, finding some time in, pushing some guys back on the offensive line, and making legit plays. And like I say, it's good versus good, right? This is Ohio State. So when you see a guy make a play, you don't take it lightly, right?
Right.
So, there were reports about McDonald and him kind of being very disruptive and playing in the backfield and looking like a first-round talent that we know he could be. Same type of reports coming out for KJ and all the things that he's bringing to the table. And then even week one of camp, Bo Atkinson, the transfer, him being disruptive and playing in the backfield, things of that nature. But, we need more guys on the interior defensive line, because you have to play at least 4 or 5 guys if you want to be a serious team. So seeing Malone kind of go out there and make some plays today, I'm sure the coaches, will feel very good about that. And it's definitely Coach Day who challenged that interior defensive line to kind of, let's see you guys do a little bit more going to fall camp. Him kind of standing on his head, and at least today making some great plays in the backfield.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to depth of the D line, especially the interior depth, kind of that safety nickel position defensively. I think at the starters, when it comes to the ones across the board, this is a real squad, and it's a long season. When you add the long playoffs as well, you want to have that level of depth. So some of these younger guys need to continue to work at it, continue to develop to be ready to play. But speaking about development, you got a lot of coaches. It's a lot of coaches to develop young players now, right? We got a new coach.
Yep, we got a new coach. So we got Josh Boyer joining the staff. He's a former defensive coordinator of the Miami Dolphins. But essentially he's brought the program because he's Matt Patricia, one of his right-hand man coming from the Patriots. He won 3 Super Bowls of his tenure there. So obviously they worked hand in hand well. I also heard he's like the eye in the sky. He's the guy in the booth that Patricia really trusts the most when it comes to, giving out information on what he sees. But the depth of coaches is something to talk about, right?
So we got a lot of coaches. Boyer, who I signed with the Patriots for a brief stint. He was the cornerback coach there. He was coaching with Matt Patricia. He was the guy in the booth. And he comes with experience as a coordinator. They hire him a week into camp, not long before the Miami game. I suspect this hire was in the works for a while. I don't know what delayed it, but I don't think this was oh, we need to go hire Boyer
Yeah.
now. I think this was something that even you go back to the spring, I think this was something that was already planned. So I don't think this was it's a new hire, but I don't think it was a new idea. I think this was something that was in the works for a while. This was expected by the staff, and he was kind of going to be part of this mix moving forward. Otherwise, I don't see this happening at this point in the season, unless they were like, "Oh, we don't have a guy currently that can do this. We need it." I don't think that was the case,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, there's a lot of coaches, man. You got Coach Johnson who came in to help the defensive backs as well, who was my DB coach back in the day, has a ton of experience. You have Nate Ebner, who's a longtime special teams guy with the Patriots, plays safety with the Patriots, plays safety at Ohio State. That's there helping out with the special teams, but also as a safety coach. Like there's just so much experience from the top all the way to the bottom of coaches. Like there might be more depth on the coaching staff than there is at safety right now.
Yeah. No, but that is something to say. Like I watched the offensive line. I went to offensive line for the day, and essentially, obviously they got the hair guy Bowen, who's a former offensive coordinator from Virginia Tech, offensive line guy, and then they have the backup offensive line coach is a former head offensive line coach. I believe he was at like maybe Iowa State or something of the sorts, and then the GA is a former player type of guy who's been coaching offensive line. So you essentially got three guys there, helping out, teach the young guys, and not, and assisting the head coach. Now in our school, we just had one guy. We just had the offensive line coach, and then essentially the older guys had to kind of maybe get some information to the young guys in the middle of practice. So you got to wait till you catch it on film to kind of really get into things on mistakes. But you just got so many guys there, and it's across the board, and it just kind of goes to Ohio State is Ohio State. NIL's NIL, and people gonna have money there. They're gonna have maybe fancy and brighter locker rooms, things of that nature. But when it comes down to football, you gotta be able to take guys, good guys, develop them, bring them into your program, that they care about your program, and they continue to kind of go on and they see it from there. And obviously Ohio State has been going above and beyond to make sure that their staff matches their talent, and they continue to kind of once again reload compared to what other teams has to find themselves rebuilding. Right.
Yeah, they could bring coaches off the bench, man. they got so many coaches, bro. And there's something that has to be said about Ryan Day's ability to transition into this new world of college football. The rules and everything is changing year after year, and it seems like Ohio State, outside of a little, slip with that team up north, Ohio State continues to consistently stay at the top and be able to maintain and innovate and adjust, right? You got unlimited coaching staff. Guess what Ohio State's going to do? They're going to have a limited coaching staff because what happens is, we talked about depth. That depth changes when week 6 comes, and the guy who you thought wasn't ready to play when camp started is now a guy who's ready to play, right? And that's what those coaches are for. Also, being able to take some pressure off, analyzing the game, being able to support in-game adjustments, etc. So I just like what they've been able to do year after year, and continuing to push forward and never letting the football part of it slip. Like really continuing to do everything they can to put guys in position to develop and grow at their game.
Yep. And real quick before we close, they dropped the AP poll, I guess earlier today. It got us at 3, Penn State at 2, Texas at 1. So with the coaches poll and the AP poll, Texas is Penn State at 2, man. Hey, Penn State at 2. Hey, it's just a poll. It's not big news, but it does put Texas as the unanimous number 1 team in the country as they get ready to come into Ohio State. FanDuel has them has Ohio State as the favorite, as a 2.5 point favorite against Texas in that game. So I think it's like the first time in history the number 1 team is going into week 1 not being the favorite in that game. So we obviously, in a few weeks, we'll see that game. We'll see how all that plays out. But, wanted to shout that out. But, hey, before we end this show, as always, please feel free to follow us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, as we continue to get into this 25 season. And once a quarterback is picked as a starter, maybe in a week, maybe in a day, who knows? We'll definitely be bringing you something to kind of go over that. But we end this show, as always, with a nice OH.
Yo.
Go Bucks. Talk to you guys soon.
Go Bucks.